Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Nicastro. Today is a solo episode, and I'm going to be sharing some observations from this week's Service Council Symposium in Chicago. It was my first time at the event in a couple of years. The event always falls right around my wedding anniversary, and the last couple of years we've been on holiday celebrating. This year it was a bit earlier, and so I was able to join everyone in Chicago. And really enjoyed the event. I think I remember saying this one of the last event summaries that I did. This is not meant to be a comprehensive synopsis of the entire event. It's more so just a reflection on some of the things that I was involved in or some of the things that stood out to me. So I had the opportunity to do three speaking sessions. The first of those was actually just before the event kicked off. So that was an interesting format. So there was a series of breakout sessions actually before the main stage event kicked off. And I was a little nervous on what attendance would be, but it was actually standing room only. So it definitely had no impact on that. So that session was an interview with Dan Basil, who is the Vice President for Field Service at Tomra North America. The topic of that was embedding AI in the service life cycle. So Dan spoke about some of the areas that Tomra is already leveraging AI in the service life cycle, as well as some of the potential he sees for additional use cases that will be coming up for them in the near future. So Tomra uses IFS Cloud. So some of those AI capabilities are built into the platform. So he talked about how field technicians are using Copilot to aid with their frontline roles. He spoke about some of the capabilities for using AI to do scenario planning and to basically run simulations with their planning and scheduling optimization tool to look at, if X happens, what would the outcome be, et cetera, as well as some things related to asset management. So it was a great conversation. One thing that I really liked that Dan shared is, his view on, with AI, whether you're using something that is embedded within a core system like they are, or whether you're looking at tools that you can use in addition, it's really important to remember, however you're using AI, it is a tool, and you, as the leader who is determining its use and deploying it, need to be responsible for understanding where the biggest need is within the business, and then ultimately driving business value from the use of that technology. So it was a really good session. And then we got into the kickoff of the main event with John Carroll. A couple things that John mentioned in his kickoff that were interesting. One was around some data that he shared related to how asset life cycles are being extended, and of course how this ties to an increased focus on the importance of service, right? If assets are going to stay in use longer and they're going to have longer lifespans, then of course that's going to require them to be maintained and serviced for extended periods of time. And so, that puts the focus on service, which is a good thing. And, he also spoke about how the research that the Service Council does shows how across different KPIs, the bar is continually being raised on service among best in class. And that makes sense. I think that there's really a changing definition of, what is table stakes for good or excellent service. The bar on that is continually being raised by consumer experiences and customer expectations. And so, service organizations absolutely have to figure out how to catch up, keep pace, and ideally get ahead. The other thing that John spoke about that I really liked was he showed sort of their pillars of what they're looking at, so process, people, technology, and he had added to that philosophy. And I like that because it underpins the importance of really looking at service and all of the related topics and challenges and trends and opportunities more strategically, and more thoughtfully, really, which I really liked. The keynote that first day on Monday was Elizabeth Dixon. Elizabeth is a former Chick-fil-A corporate employee and two-time author. And she was there talking about some bits from her new book. And so what she was speaking about was the importance of purpose. And I really liked, she talked about some of the different I guess, levers of value that purpose drives for a business. The one that stood out to me the most was that purpose has the power to move organizations from confusion to clarity. And I think that's something that there is a big need for right now. And a really important context for leaders to think about purpose from. So she also spoke about, gave a really good reminder that company culture is what you model, what you create, and what you tolerate. Obviously, it is those things. It is not what you say or what you have written on your website or what you print in a job description, etc. And the importance of that reality was reinforced through so many conversations I had over the next 3 days. This idea that the biggest opportunity we have in service right now, it seemed, at least to me, and also the biggest challenge is really with our people. And so this role of culture and purpose and leadership and psychological safety and trust and engagement and empowerment. These things are so crucial in the coming years. And there were a lot of layers of conversation where that theme was readily apparent. There was a panel that was talking about the shift from the art of the possible to the art of the relevant. This is a message that was, reinforced throughout as well, which is, just because certain technological capabilities exist does not mean that you can or should use them all, right? We need to think about not just what's possible, but what's relevant. And also thinking through that lens as a way to help prioritize different opportunities or different investments. The point that I really appreciated on that panel was from Patricia Sabera, who is with Unisys, who, a lot of the conversation was around achieving ROI and proving ROI and quick ROI and building a business case around ROI and those sorts of things. And, Patricia's point is that ROI is certainly important, but we also need to be thinking about ROE, which is return on experience. And she spoke about how, sometimes too narrow of a focus on ROI can have us thinking too narrowly, right? It can have us, keep more of a short-term lens than what might really benefit the organization. So whether we're thinking about the experiences of our teams, whether we're thinking about the experiences of our customers, keeping in mind that sometimes there are reasons to, make investments or initiate a change that have considerations beyond simply the payback. Um, there was a Voice of the Frontline panel on day one that I really, really enjoyed. So, on that panel, some of the leaders from EchoStar, Home Depot, and HomeLogic were joined by the frontline and a couple of one and two frontline employees from their organizations. And I love this session for a few reasons. Number one, we at these conferences, if you think about the leaders audience, right? We're always saying how important the voice of the frontline is. So what a what a brilliant idea to bring them and have them actually share that in a forum like this, right? So, again, this is a way that we take that statement and make it an action. So I really liked that, not just that this topic was part of the conversation at the event, but more importantly, that we invited people in that are in those frontline roles to share their thoughts and experiences. The other reason I love this session is, I was empathetic to the fact that it's a big ask for those individuals. There are service leaders, that attend these conferences and still get nervous to get on stage and speak in front of a room of 500 people. So asking someone for who that type of experience is not the norm, is really asking them to push out of their comfort zone. I had a lot of respect for them coming and doing that and doing so because they're very passionate about their roles and their contributions to their organizations, and they shared some really good points. So that was really cool. On day two, there was a women in service breakfast, and there, sometimes those are organized and it's just networking, so it's just an opportunity to, connect and chat with some of the other women at the event that you may run out of time to do so if you're just trying to find them in the hallway or in between sessions. This session had a speaker, and I will be very honest that I didn't really have high expectations. I didn't know anything about the speaker, so maybe I should have been. Maybe I should have had higher expectations, but I just kind of went into it, honestly thinking maybe she was going to speak for, 15 or 20 minutes, and then everyone would sort of network and chat. And it was an hour-long session, a combination of her insights and then, a workshop type format where we did some different activities. And it was just phenomenal. The woman was Erin Coop. And I don't want to say too much about what she shared because I'm really hoping I can convince her to come on the podcast and share some of it herself. But I chatted with a number of the women who were also there throughout the next day. And, it was clear that the session was really impactful for many of us, if not all of us, that were in the room. So it was a really, really great way to start the day. And I think, Erin, the only thing I would say is I appreciate the opportunity to, have a session that was special for us. But Erin was very, very deserving of a spot on the main stage. Her content, her message was really, really valuable. There was a session after that, a panel session on overcoming the inertia of as is. Um, and the thing that struck me about this session is how a lot of what was brought up tied us back to this idea of philosophy. So thinking big, allowing yourself to step outside of the normal line of sight, and allowing your brain to grow accustomed to the exercise of being more creative, of thinking outside of the box, of not just, assuming a response or an answer based on the historical norm, but really, challenging yourself to see if there are opportunities to reimagine what's possible. Uh, it also tied back to purpose. Giner Osgood mentioned, the importance as we're making changes or, innovating, transforming of, do our employees know why we're doing this? Do they know how it ties into our purpose and their purpose within our purpose, which I thought was really a good point. And then people, it comes down again to this was another example of a conversation that sort of found its way back to how crucial people are in all of this. And again, that was a theme throughout. There were, of course, plenty of sessions about AI, but there was, I think, a focus of those of really how do we use AI and other technologies, any technologies, to make the day-to-day lives of our people smoother and easier and better because they are so important and because there's more work than there are them. And there is, more value that they can create if we take some of these, menial manual tasks off of their plate. There was a session, a keynote from Jorn Lindstedt of Rolls-Royce Power Systems, talking about outcomes-based service through the lens of Power by the Hour, which we learned was introduced in 1962. So Rolls-Royce has been at the outcomes game for a long, long time. Of course, plenty of lessons learned, plenty of iteration and continued innovation, but a really good look at a company that has, understood for a long time the value of moving beyond what they provide and focusing more on what value that delivers, which is, a lens and a view that many organizations in the audience can still benefit from thinking more about. I had the opportunity actually to talk a bit further about outcomes with Pedro Buigas of Kodiak Gas. So he's the CIO of Kodiak Gas, and we had a session Tuesday afternoon about how Kodiak is expanding upon outcomes-based service success. So the business model that they have is based on the availability of distributors in the gas space, and what they're looking at is the reality that oftentimes the availability of their machines is high. It has to be. That is the outcome that they're guaranteeing, or I should say the guarantee they're providing is that availability. However, often there are situations within their customer ecosystem that still cause downtime. So even though the reliability of Kodiak's services keep the equipment availability high, the uptime doesn't always match that because there can be things within the customer landscape that create downtime. And so they're looking at how they can expand their service offerings into the customer ecosystem to help them protect and increase uptime. So it was a really interesting conversation. It was tied a lot to, the reality for any organization that, if you are looking at how you provide more outcomes, if you're focusing more on, the value you're delivering versus the service interaction itself, or if you're, looking at how you evolve that offering and that sort of go to market, you know, you have to have a strong foundation from a technology standpoint to be able to deliver that. It just absolutely requires, visibility and real-time data and a lot of analytics and a lot of predictive capabilities and, just a really high degree of maturity from a digital perspective. And Pedro mentioned the way they look at it is Kodiak is committed to a market-leading approach to technology, and that is fundamental to their ability to deliver outcomes. Um, so there was a panel about right-sizing data collection and consumption. There was a couple of statistics that stood out to me. Only 56% of technicians trust the data that they use. And on average, technicians spend 36% of their day searching for information. So, again, we're back at people really, because, we're looking at the amount of time our people are spending looking for information. And, when we think about, well, where can we use AI? There it is. The other point I liked in this session was from Carolyn Hagstrom of Vattenfall, who said, trust is the ultimate KPI. Unlocking that is the key to unlocking real value. So again, even when we're having these conversations about AI or about data or about, outcomes-based service, it's coming back to the people part of what makes this all work, which is really cool. Then on the final day, I had an opportunity to lead a panel with Cobb Mencarini from Ecolab, Sylvester Johnson from Home Depot, and Ken Creech from Makino. So three different industries, all talking about translating predictive accuracy into better customer experience. So this was day three was a half day, and this session was about midway through. Again, my expectations were low. I was thinking like, oh, I hope people come. And so people did come, and people were very engaged. So again, I was very pleasantly surprised. And the conversation just really took on a life of its own. I mean, we obviously talked about within each of those organizations, each of their industries, where they're at with predictive analytics and what role that plays in their businesses today, what it will mean in the years to come. But it really led us back to conversations about the talent landscape and, the need to really start to reimagine what roles in service look like and who can fill them. It led us to talking about some of the things that had been brought up earlier in the week around purpose, psychological safety, leadership, how leaders are, get into leadership roles and whether they should or shouldn't, and how they're supported, and the impact that a lot of those things have. So it was interesting because, the conversation kept, kind of taking these turns, and there was just no way for it not to, right? And I think it kind of underscored what I thought about the entire week, which is, how interconnected all of these things really are. You can't have a conversation about AI without it leading to a conversation about your people. You can't have a conversation about, creating a platform for delivering outcomes without talking about customer expectations. There's a lot of different intersection points, and a lot of complexity, right? But a real need to sort through those layers. The other thing we talked about a bit in the panel, it's Thursday right now, so this was yesterday, but was the need for leaders to put strong teams in place so that they have the time and the bandwidth to think ahead, right? Um, the pace of change is so fast today that if you stay, entrenched in today's challenges and you don't have that time to look at what the next few years will bring and really start getting things in motion now, it's going to be impossible to stay relevant. Yeah, but having the opportunity to come together across industries and have these great discussions, learn from one another, share ideas is an important part of what takes the industry forward. So I had an opportunity to see so many people that I, just adore, and that made me really happy. I had an opportunity to meet some new folks. I received some really nice feedback from people that I wasn't at all expecting that just really warmed my heart. So it was a really great 3 days. Glad to be home. Lots to catch up on. So I hope you enjoyed the recap. If you want to poke around for some more content, you can visit the home of the podcast at futureoffieldservice.com. The podcast is published in partnership with IFS. You can learn more at ifs.com. And as always, thank you for listening.